All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 10 of the Nobody Entertainment Podcast. My name is Nobody James, and this here is Nobody John with the flying butterfly wings. John, how has your week been?
Butterfly. That's like, face hugger, a geeker thing.
I like that you went all for it. You just shoved your thumbs down your throat, but whatever. I'm here for it, John.
Sometimes I need to feel the tickle from the inside, not just the outside.
Yeah, save that for the end too. Remember that one. Give us the words of
Oh
wisdom
yeah,
on
that's
that one.
gonna be the sayings that I always forget. You're like, man, you said something really cool.
Yeah,
This week it's creepy. So
sometimes I need to feel the tickles from the inside. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. So
swallow
anyway,
toad's
how
hole.
how are you doing this week, John?
Man, I have not got done half the things that I've wanted to. I haven't got to play or do a lot of like things for myself. So
Hey, that's okay. So what have you been doing? What have you been up to?
Well, I got the rest of the conduit underneath my house. That's finished. It's done. We had another electrician come out today to take in the information for a quote. So that's going to be two electricians looking at it, bidding against each other. Unlike our governor here in Missouri, just shrilling out funds to some consulting firm for our COVID response, which is we don't have a response. Everybody open back up. Uh, I guess that's an entertaining note. So, um, if you want me to keep on rambling, we finished What We Do in the Shadows, which
The show, the second season, I guess, right?
second season wrapped it up, and I need
Save that,
more.
save that, save that. We're not to there yet, John. That's not what's been entertaining you. It's how has your week been? So if you
Well,
haven't done a lot,
that leads up, like, oh shit, my show's over.
see, that's
Now
fine.
now we're searching, we're digging through things. There's Wilmington Paranoia is an offshoot of the show that I didn't know about. I tried to do a little bit more of the Shadow of War. I I've invaded some arid uh, Arab orc area, and I'm getting my ass kicked to me, and it's bullshit.
You're so bad at this. It's- that is what I love you.
What is entertaining? Yeah.
That is what is entertaining you. This is
But
just how has your week been. You've not had a lot of you time. You got your conduit ran, right? You started complaining a little bit about
fine.
your.
I'm steady at 155 pounds.
That's
Trying to get
good.
rid of that.
Yeah.
Kind of trying to. I would really like to drop it down, but my diet like today has been trash because lunch was bought by the company. So
What'd they get you?
chicken fried rice.
Oh, that's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's
I
right.
see. I sent out a message, a week ago at this point to our buddy Steven, to try to get him back on our cast to do another Squawk Squad and have a conversation with him because I thought it was just the best topic. I'm going to save it. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's
You
food
suck.
related, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it. So if we could actually, I might let you know like a day in advance or just a couple hours in advance. So I don't want you
Prep.
hardcore preparing for it. It's just going to be a good conversation.
So two things. Everybody knows this week. Uh, I mean, like I sort of got a little bit excited because Nvidia dropped their new GPUs that came out.
I saw that. Yeah.
So, and what really kind of sucks is kind of it's been entertaining me is looking at the memes for everybody that purchased like the 2080 series within the last year, because
Right.
basically Nvidia was like, oh, you spent $800 on a graphics card, well, you can get the same thing for 400 now.
Okay.
Well, the 16th anyway.
So this new graphics card that they just released. Okay. So that or not released, but announced, right?
hmm
You think that's going to be released for $400? Oh,
Uh,
no, it's going to step down to 400 because the new one comes out for the 800 price, right?
okay, so they announced three graphics cards. Okay, it's the new architecture that came out. They've got the 3090, which is designed for developers, architectural people doing CAD designs, and videographers, video editors, and stuff like that. It's got a crazy amount of RAM. Not really designed for gaming. It's still a workhorse. The 3080, which is like up here, that one's 699. But then there's one that comes out um, in October. So they said they didn't put a date on it, but October. That is the same They say it'll do the same performance as a current top level card, but $300 cheaper.
This is a stupid question, but I'm just curious,
Shoot.
and I don't know. Um, what is the most important component of a PC for gaming? Is it the graphics card exclusively?
I say that's the one you're going to want to spend the most money on. Yes.
So if I had the nicest graphics card in the business, right? If I spent $1,000 on my graphics card, right? That's a pretty good one, right?
You don't have to spend a great.
I'm just saying hypothetically, right? $800, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and then I only have a gig of RAM. Is it gonna make? Is it gonna run?
You don't want a gig of RAM.
I'm just saying, would it still run the game or no?
No.
So RAM's probably the most important.
No. They're all interconnected. So here's the thing with Nvidia, just like the new consoles, is that they're creating that direct access for the data to pull right off really fast storage. So if you have a solid state drive that meets XYZ deals, instead of the RAM holding, like there's a point where that data comes from the hard drive or the solid state to the RAM, and then it's fed to the other components, whether it needs to go to processing or it needs to go to GPU. Now they're coming out with based off the same consoles that AMD's putting out, this PS5 and the Xbox X. Um, the GPU can grab what it needs off the really fast solid state, so it can bypass RAM. But yes, you still need more than 1 gig of RAM. Your phone has way more than 1 gig of RAM. It probably has two or three.
I was just saying hypothetically, but the reason I'm kind of giggling to myself is because something about this conversation, just the tech side of it, and I'm a huge tech nerd, but I'm the kind of person I like to go out and I like to buy. I'm like the fast food of tech consumer, right? I want to go to the restaurant and I want my meal to be ready. I don't really like to go in and like have to pick out my meat and my potatoes and then explain to the chef how I want it prepared and tell them how to add a little bit of salt and pepper. I want it ready to go because you start talking about this, even though I asked the question, and a piece of me just glazes over, and then about 30 seconds in, I'm like, oh shit, I'm not paying attention. I
It's
just,
you're the kind of person that buys, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these people, but
there's
you buy
probably
a buy a prefab. You're buying it from Origin. You're buying it from Alienware.
You're
Uh,
exactly right. I was looking at them at Walmart the other day because I mean, this is part of my week, but
you
we
don't
started
go
the
to
home.
Walmart and buy a gaming PC or a PC at all. So
I did not, and I'm not
I know I'm
suggesting
just
that I
saying
would,
don't admit to
but
that if you do.
I'm looking at the laptops because we started the homeschooling because of the COVID thing in my area. They're going to do the homeschool for I don't know a little while just to see if it gets any better. And I have one PC that, or I'm sorry, PC, one laptop that's probably 8 to 10 years old. It's a gateway, and it's kind of on its last legs. And before this whole COVID thing took place, I actually went out and bought a new laptop, and spent a good amount, and nothing crazy, $800 on it, just so I had a good operating laptop from Best Buy. Um, and I don't know the specifics of it, but so luckily right now we have two, and I have two daughters. Uh, but I was like, I don't really want my youngest using our nice new laptop, so I'm thinking about going out and buying a $200-300 something just so she can do her lessons. And all it needs to do is be able to do video calls. I would like it to have a touch screen, and then I would also like it to be able to play Roblox, just because that's the only PC game that my kids play. Um, and I don't want her using our $800 laptop, not that that's the highest end or anything, but it's enough to make me not want to have to mess with it. I keep pointing over there, and I'm literally using it for this call right now because that's where she sits whenever she does her schooling. Um, but
You
while I
should
was
just
at Walmart,
ask. I'll price some stuff out. I'll look for it. I mean,
I know,
COVID
I
right
know,
now, things have
I
probably harder
all
to get.
everything is gone. It's kind of crazy. I went to Best Buy and I just asked him. I said, okay, I want low end, I want cheap, and I want it to have a touchscreen. Exactly what I said before. And he goes, everything's pretty much sold out. The cheapest laptop we have is $700. And I was like, well, that's a bit out of my price range right now. I don't want to spend that on this. Um, what do you guys have open box? She's like, I guess I can. He was just the moodiest son of a bitch I've ever dealt with because it's obviously everything's sold out. You should just shut up. You know? I get it, and I'm seeming like a negative Nelly, but I will say this part. I went to the grocery store right after because it was during work hours. I just ran a couple errands. I stopped by to check the laptop situation, and so I went to the grocery store to pick up some produce for work, and I couldn't find the cucumbers because I'm an idiot. And I went to the next guy and I said, the employee, and I said, "Could you point me in the direction of the cucumbers?" And he literally went and didn't say a word. He just pointed, and I was aggressively frustrated after that because it felt to me like the world is kind of coming to a bit of
C-
a point of frustration.
Civility is and respect is definitely out of that. And I'll say it again: everybody deserves respect, and everybody needs to show more respect, have more patience. Although, I mean, maybe the guy was having a bad time, maybe he was a mute, but he definitely did what you asked. Point me in the like, and I don't know how you came off on it because maybe Best Buy destroyed your civility yourself, and you came out a little bit more pungent than you wanted to. Point
No,
me in the direction of cucumbers.
this
And
is
he's like,
exactly what I said to verbatim because I'm in the service industry, so I'm always very conscientious of how I talk to people. I said, "I'm sorry to bother you, sir. I know you're really busy, but could you point me in the direction of cucumbers?" And it wasn't even the way that he. I'm sorry, it wasn't even the fact that he pointed. It was the way that he pointed. He went like it was very clear as he's loading the sliced cantaloupe onto the rack that I was getting in the way of his job functions, and he wasn't having it. And
you should
whatever,
have said, "Hey chap, I've got a quest for you. Would you guide me towards the cucumbers,
yeah,
please?"
because me being foreign would make it that much better.
Listen, it's a Skyrim accent. Get off of it.
I've had an awesome week, and I will say this: I don't know how you're doing down there in Missouri with your weather, but we've officially entered into the fall season, and this weather is my favorite. I mean, it just puts me in a good mood. It's my favorite time of year. It's the air is getting a little crisper and cooler. You
I
can go
wish.
outside. It's a crisp 65, 70 degrees. It feels like you're swimming through the air. It's like you jump into a nice cool pool after a nice hot day, and it is just perfect. I love it. I love it. It puts me in a good mood. And the whole Halloween season. It's actually you're 1 month behind because I live in Wisconsin. So like it's that October weather when you go out in your Halloween costume, you got your mask on, you're not sweating, it's just nice and cool and comfortable. Well, here by October we're in full snow gear, those floppy hats, and like what are
Wearing those
the
French hats.
the the tennis rackets you have to walk on. It's already snowed 41 times. Not quite that bad. I'm obviously exaggerating, but it's been an incredibly productive week, and the weather is just putting me in a fantastic mood. With your help, obviously, but also you were kind enough to send me a power supply, which I talked about on last week's episode for my computer that you also bought and built for me.
I
We
told you, I
we
was like, it's the weakest part right there, James, is that power supply. I'm not
that's
proud of what we sent
that's all
you,
right.
but it
That's all right.
works.
It happens, and we got it replaced, so my PC's back up and running, which is great. I got the parts for my treadmill finally, so it's back up and running. Literally the day I was going to call and say, "Hey, I'm done. Just come take it back. I'm done." It showed up in the mail. They read my mind. They knew it was happening. So my treadmill, I got it replaced. I had to replace a board and a roller. It's back up and running. My wife's
How many miles have you put on it?
since it came back up, only 6, but it was literally yesterday that I got it put back up. So
Yeah.
Um, I replaced my lawnmower blade and my wire on my weed eater, and I replaced my wife's turn signal. So it's felt
Dude,
like a lot of
productivity.
yeah, it's felt
Honeydews
like
done.
a lot of I've replaced the bathroom light, so I'm just crushing it here. Um, it feels like a lot of rebuilding this week, but it does feel good to know that we've knocked a bunch of stuff out. But like I said, I'm in a pretty good mood. I've had a pretty good week, and
So why'd you, sorry to interrupt, but why'd
you're
you
fine.
replace the blade on your lawnmower? Why didn't you just sharpen it or whatever?
It's just a matter of truth be told, I've been having to use my lawnmower for work because we've been
Oh, I
putting
forgot
our
about that.
landscaper on hiatus. And while I've been doing that, I just decided to go ahead and refurbish a lot of the supplies that I've been using for work. I figure if I'm going to be using my own property, then they need to be repairing and replacing. So not only did I replace my lawnmower blade on my work's budget, but I also replaced the wire of my weed eater on their budget, as well as buying 2 new batteries for my battery operated weed eater, which that is not cheap. So I decided to put all that on them, and that's why I did what I did, and it works great. I was able to weed eat mine for the first time because these batteries only last about 20 minutes, which is sad. But now that I have three of them, I can swap out and do my whole yard in just a simple transition. So it's very nice to be done.
You don't have to buy two stroke or any of that other crap for them.
I will say that I know this says a lot about me. It's sad. I've never actually had to replace the wire on a weed eater, right? It's annoying. It's a very annoying process.
I don't, yeah, maybe you're doing it wrong. So I have Weed Eater. I've had it for 2 years, and I'm still on the string that comes with it. I have not replaced it. I've cut off chunks of it because I'm like, oh man, I pulled out too much or whatever. So
I think I am generally a terrible weed eater because I have a tendency. As I replaced it and I used it in my yard, I found chunks of it broken off throughout my yard. I don't know what's going on. I know I'm extending too much, but not by much. Um, I hate weed eating. I like the end product of a nice weed eated mowed yard because I'm a good old guy. That's what you do is when you're done mowing, you just kind of cross your arms and you just go, "Yeah, you did it. You did it." You're just like, I like what we're doing here.
I I mean, like, I'll be honest with you. I had to walk the trash out to the curb this morning, and Madison's driveway, because we have two driveways, it looks good because I did the edges of it.
Because
I
he's a
didn't like
rich bitch. Because he's a
no
rich bitch.
no no way. But anyway, I was walking back up on a driveway and I was like, this is a good looking driveway. I like how that looks. Mine
That's
is
good.
not. My side is not up that. It's like there's like crabgrass growing over the edges. I'm like, I don't know where the driveway and the yard starts and stops. It's all intermingled now.
It's so crazy because I think I'm 33, right? You're 34,
Yeah,
right?
or
Okay.
33,
No, you're 34 now. You just turned 34, I think.
maybe. I think so.
I'm not 32. I'm either 33 or 34. So if you're 35, then I'm
I'm
33.
not 35.
Slow down. No, but there's something about being our age that you get a power washer out and you just blast your siding and you're just like, I'm liking the way that this looks now. It's just you start to
You
appreciate the small
power wash
things.
your
Like,
house?
do you not?
No.
When you come here, you're going to be like, wow, you power wash your house? Because it doesn't look like I do. My power washer actually is down right now. I think I need to replace the spark plug on it, which doesn't make any sense because it's only like a year and a half old, and I've only used it maybe three
And you
times.
got a
But
gas power washer.
I do. Yeah. Is that a problem?
Why?
What do you use?
I don't. I don't power wash my house, one. And number
Oh, I'm sorry.
two, I would just plug it in. I would get an electric one so I don't have to go out and get gas for it.
I'll have
And
to look
replace
into it,
spark
but
plugs.
I'll have to look into it. But I think the electric ones they just don't run at the PSI of what the actual gas powered ones do. I think I have something like a 1400. I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but it's a pretty decent one. The last time I tried to use it, it didn't work out, and my neighbor actually saw me struggling trying to start it because I was getting this thing. I was just like, "What the fuck?" And he's like, "Hey, I've got one you can borrow." So he brought me this little thing, and it was like 800 psi, and it didn't do anything. It was like spraying it with a freaking like a squirt bottle, like a bottle of Windex, like. Tss, tss, tss.
Now,
This is
is that because you got birds flying in the side of your house? You have like kids putting marker on the side of your house?
no, 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 no. It's something you got to do. I got white siding. You've been here. You've seen it.
I've got white siding.
Yeah.
I've
You need.
got I've got a little bit of
It's
mossy
not.
stuff growing on
I
the
was gonna
north
say,
side.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's not white anymore. You got to
Nope.
get a power. You got to get that thing cleaned up.
No, no. I've even got wasps growing on the other side of the roof, the
See,
overhang, and I'm just like, they don't bother me. They eat bugs. I don't care. I'll leave
yeah,
them
they
there.
don't bother you, but I'm not. This is not a classist thing because we're probably in the same class. I'm not judging John, but I live in a neighborhood that requires a little bit more upkeep and maintenance. They disrespect you if you let your lawn go a little too long, if your house is looking a little disrepaired. I was out there trimming bushes and having my kids pick them up. I'm out there picking weeds. It's like I said, it's a process. It's a process.
Your neighbors would hate me, 'cause I'm like next year,
Yeah, you're
I'm
like hardcore screw it.
yeah. Well, no, I'm not that. All right. But I like things a little bit more natural. I let the bushes on the north side of my house, which used to be
Grow
like,
up the whole house. Yeah.
well, no, they used to be like trimmed off in a square, like rectangle, and I've let them grow out because in the springtime they grow tall and they get yellow flowers and then they droop over because they get heavy and it makes these like little coves for the birds and it looks nice. I like it. Um,
That's all
but
that
it's not
matters.
your this is
Yeah.
our edged, bush. It's not trimmed.
See, I go out there with my little battery operated hedge trimmer. That's nice too because I have the two options, and I trim them into nice little globes as much as I can. My bushes in the front, but I will say when we moved into this house, I think the previous owners were big into the gardens and the flower beds, and they 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 had a really pretty operation set up. But my wife and I aren't big into that. We're not big. What's it called? Horticulture.
People.
Yeah. So we don't really monitor it too well. So we end up with some tall some like tall grass growing in our flower beds, and we're not good about picking that stuff out. Actually, we have a big vine flower bush thing growing in the back that would work its way up one of those. What are those called? They stick in the ground and they go up like this, and the vines like grow up them. What is that called?
I don't know. We just use it like a rose bush guard. They're like flat white. They look like a fan.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm blanking. I just bought a new one of these, but it wasn't tall enough. So it literally got so tall that the bush broke it and was falling over. So right now on the back of my house, I took a bungee cord and I tied it up. So the bungee cord is holding it back up in position, hanging off the back of my house. It's like I grew up in Oklahoma. But whatever. I don't know.
I don't know what to say. I'm not that keen on that. I grow flowers and stuff, and I just let them do their thing. And I've got yellow birds, and I don't know.
Well, I tore out a couple planters last year, I think it was, because they had it. Like I said, they were all about the growing, the gardening, and all that stuff. And that's just not my scene. I think the less trees in my yard, the better, so I can mow easier. But with that being said, John, I think it's time that we transition into what's been entertaining us. I'll kick things off because I know for a fact that I've got a lot more on my list than you do.
All right, well let's knock them out.
I'm not going to have time to go through every single thing that I've gotten into over this
Thank
last
God.
week, which is crazy because it actually just kind of all compiled over the last couple of days. Um, but the first thing I'm going to start out with, and I think it'll be pretty quick and simple, but it's called The World's Toughest Race, and it's actually on Amazon Prime. Have you seen this show?
I have not started that show.
So it's a 10 episode series, and it's based on a race in Fiji. I don't know exactly how long it is, but have you heard of, and I'm sure you have, but adventure racing?
No.
Okay, so adventure racing is basically a series of triathlons over the course of several days. So it's swimming, boating, biking, running, whatever the case is. But in this instance, they took a group of like 60 teams and they put them in Fiji. They all start at the same time and they do a leg of boating and then they do a leg of walking in this scenario because I mean, it literally is taking some of these teams the full 10 days. I've watched all of the series, the full 10 episodes, and I will say if you get through basically episode 7, you could probably tune out because at that point somebody wins the race and like the first 20 finishers have actually finished, but other teams are just in it to complete it. And these races are hundreds of kilometers. And I don't know the exact transition. I believe it's somewhere in the ballpark of like zero point 0.7 miles is a kilometer. I'm not 110% on that, but still hundreds of miles for this race over the course of, like I said, potentially 10 days, depending on the team. And I will say that this show. It's hosted by Bear Grylls of Man vs. Wild fame, um, and it's very entertaining. It's it's pretty quick to try to get you involved in the lives of these adventure racers. There's people. Some teams are older, it's like in their late 60s, and they're out there trying to perform it. Some of them don't fare as well.
They don't
There's a gentleman
finish.
that's I'm not going to put any spoilers out there, but that's a possibility. But it's one of those things that if you even finish the first leg, I think it's probably a feather in your cap because they do somewhere in the ballpark of like 20 to 30 miles of rowing right out of the gate. The team that's in first place for the entire first episode, I'll tell you this part, spoilers, they burn out and they fall into like 50 something place by day two. It's crazy to me. So these guys are seasoned. I mean, they rappel, they climb waterfalls, they zip line, they swim in like 50-degree water that gives them hypothermia. They have to be warmed back up, and they keep going. We went on our bike ride. We rode something, what was it, 160 miles? I don't remember now.
Oh, it's like two something, wasn't it?
You're probably right.
Because
I
I thought
don't.
it was only gonna be like 120 or something. We got to 120. I was like, what? You're
Are
like,
we almost
did
done? No,
you?
we got like another day and a half. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you were like, did you not get the memo?
Like I said, it's pretty impressive at what these people do. But they, like I said, they get sick, they get hurt, they get hypothermia, they get stitches or whatever, and then they just like, nope, I'm gonna finish, and they go back out there and they get at it. Some of them bow out, some of them quit, but it's really turned me on to the idea of adventure racing. They take what they have in their pack and then they go crazy. They live off of their
Can they
backpacks.
can they run? Like, can they run continually run the race? They don't have to sleep or whatever.
The I won't say who, but the team that wins, I think, ended up getting 8 hours of sleep over the course of 5 days, which is insane to me.
That's what I was saying. I was like, I'm I'm gonna take a lead as long as I can. There's not a like, oh, you have to do it in daylight hours. I'm like, I'm just going.
This is another mild spoiler. Again, I'm not going to say what team it is, but they get to their last leg. They're like 10 miles away from the finish. And it's a boating section, and breaks. Their boat breaks, and they're submerged in the water for like an hour and a half, waiting for a rescue team to come get them. And they boat out. They take them to the nearest shore, and then they bring them a replacement boat, and then they still finish in first place.
Cheating.
It's not in that
Your
sense.
boat broke.
In that
Swim.
sense, I will say I kind of feel the same way, to be honest. But I'm going to say this overall, the show is extremely entertaining, if not just a little bit long. Again, 10 1 hour episodes. I feel like they could have probably trimmed off a little bit of the fat. I didn't need to know. I get where they're coming from because they want you to understand the heart and the feel, but I don't need to know that much about the last place teams. But there's a couple of the teams that they literally don't delve into. You don't get to know the majority of these teams, I would say, but some of the teams that they really heavily get involved in the first couple of days fall to the end of the pack, and they're like, well, we you got to know how they finish up, and I feel like they could have done it in 8 episodes and done a nice little time capsule and brought it all together and shipped it out. But I would still say the show is great for what I'm interested in. It definitely gave me an interest in the adventure racing. Um, my weakest part is definitely going to be the swimming because I'm just not a big swimmer. Um,
Well, we gotta
I
do the
just
Appalachian Trail.
I'm all about it, dude. I'm set up and ready to go. I'm like I said, whenever you said to me maybe a month ago at this point, you were like, I'm ready to do the Katy Trail again. I was like, I think we should just find a bigger, better trail and go for it. I'd be fine with going out to the Tetons, which we just took our vacation to, and hitting up the uh, bike through the Tetons and maybe even Yellowstone or whatever. I think it'd be beautiful, amazing. So that's going to be my first. How many do you have on your list this
I
week?
think like three.
All right. I'm going to do one more and then I'll turn it over to you, okay? And this is one that you can tap into. We talked about it very briefly last week, um, but I've been going back and rewatching season one of The Boys, and I
Okay.
just want to reiterate the show is fucking awesome.
It is a good
I,
show.
I'm 3 of 8 episodes in. It is perfectly written. It does a fantastic job of putting you in the world of these characters that are sick and tired of the superheroes because they've basically what they've done. I mean, this show is what 2 years old at this point. It was
Is
released
it?
in 2018, I would say, like end of 2018, I think. Probably around this time of 2018. You can double check if you'd like while I go on, but
Okay.
basically the superheroes have been like corporatized and they're profiteered and built for money. They I mean they're flat out told what crimes to seek out and what people to rescue because it's going to get them more popular, more famous, and more money. And it's based around corporate greed, corruption, and then you have a group of, for the lack of a better term, um, vigilantes that are out to kill the superheroes because they've all been put in a situation where they have been wronged by them. And it does a really good job of making you feel for these people that are out to kill these superheroes. And I love this show. I am absolutely in love with it, and I cannot wait. The reason I'm going back and rewatching it is because the new season premieres tomorrow, and that's going to be Friday, which is September 4th, which is just the
Day.
craziest day of entertainment. Because this is the stuff that's coming out tomorrow, right? We have Mulan, which is getting released on Disney Plus. We
Not.
have
Mm.
Tenet, which is getting released in theaters. We have The Boys season 2, which is Amazon Prime. Raised by Wolves, which is an HBO series, which actually the first 3 episodes are available now. So I don't know if you have HBO. I know it's a show you're interested in.
I am,
I'm
but
going
I
to be
don't have
watching
it.
that pretty quick. Marvel's Avengers for the PlayStation slash everything. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 Plus 2 Remaster, which is getting released. I've already pre-ordered that one. I'm going to be diving into that one really quick. It's an insane day. Also, tomorrow's my anniversary, my 10-year wedding anniversary. So there's a lot of stuff going on tomorrow. So
You gotta cut
I
something
I,
out of your life, James.
I don't know if I said this before, and I'm sorry, I got to backtrack for a second. World's Toughest Race. I would say it's a great show if you're into reality racing kind of stuff, to give you a little bit of motivation. So I'd say it's a great show. The Boys is a Gaga show. I love this. I love it. How do you feel about it?
I'm gonna be with you on your assessment of the boys. I believe it is Gaga. It is definitely 2019, by the way. It's not. It's
Early
not.
then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's a
That's a quick turnaround.
it is, and I appreciate it because it kind of left us hanging. And you,
Amazing cliffhanger. Amazing.
yes, yes, and I think it has a lot of possibility, and I'm kind of happy for it because like I do like superheroes. I do like some of the shows that have done. Some of them are just like, I mean, like they get to the point where they're too comic book for me to where it's not entertaining. I don't know if it's, hey, you're always so good or whatever. I don't like some of the inner turmoil between the factions. I forget what a civil war. I don't really care for that kind of thing. So I really appreciate like how would superheroes be like in our world? Are they going to be just tried and true, or are they going to be as corrupt as money and power always does? Because what did we always say in debate? Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But all right, I'll turn it over to you. Oh, Boys, Gaga, great. Not great. Sorry, flat out Gaga. Fantastic show. Cannot wait for season 2.
As far as I've finished with my wife, What We Do in the Shadows, season two, finished it up, and I'm like, what? Because we were sitting there eating dinner, like, well, let's play the next episode, and there was none. So
So
I'm a
it
little,
ends on kind of a cliffhanger like the first season does.
yeah, well, yeah. You're just like something happens, and you're like, oh, what happens after that? And nothing because there's not another season yet. Yet there
I
better
really want to
be.
get back into that show. I watched the I want to say I watched the whole movie. It's that dry British humor. It's got Taika Waititi. It's got the dude from Flight of the Conchords, Jermaine Clemens, I think his name is.
I don't know. Yeah, that's the premiere. Yep.
He's in the show too, but I'm talking about in the movie.
Yeah.
It's dry, it's humorous. I think it's really good. The show itself didn't really grab me. I watched like 4 or 5 episodes, and I think they're 30-minute episodes, right?
Yeah, they're not long.
So it's very entertaining, and I think I will enjoy it if I just get to the end. I did not finish the first season, but I knew it ended on a cliffhanger because I kind of looked up some spoilers, and it made me go, "Oh, that seems like a pretty cool twist." And I would like to see where the second season kind of builds upon that.
And you got to pay attention to those kind of shows, James. Like
Oh, sure.
the little bit of humor that you miss. It's good stuff.
No, you're right. That's the kind of show that watching it 2 or 3 times opens new doors constantly.
Oh, I don't do that. I just watch
No, no,
it. I
no.
drink
I
coffee, take some Ritalin, focus in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you just
No, man, I'm just like hyper aware. No, I do like pay attention to little things like that. I'm just like, oh, that is hilarious, and I'll laugh, and Madison's like, what the hell's wrong with
well, I think that's probably something that I should get back into. Speaking of something you should get into,
you? How they ended Seven Deadly Sins, and that was entertaining me, and then they just ended it, and I was like, this is a shitty ending, and
is
I
there
don't.
one season of that?
No, no, there's three.
Okay. So
So
what is Seven Deadly Sins and
it's a
where can you watch it?
it's a Netflix original anime, and it takes place in a fantasy medieval area of history, and there's a group of heroes, sort of anti-heroes. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but they've been dubbed as the Seven Deadly Sins, and they have more powers and stuff like that. And they're in the kingdom of Leonis, and there's some factions going on. You can't tell who's good or bad in the beginning, and it's like the first two seasons are pretty good. Third season,
Kind
it's
of starts to
okay.
lose you.
Huh?
Kind of starts to lose you.
Yeah, it does. But I finished through it, so
So
done.
it's done, or are they carrying on?
Nope, yep, they left it at a shitty cliffhanger. There's no real resolution. There's just like bloop, done with the
But
season.
it's anticipated that there will be more.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's something at least to know that they're potentially coming back. I know that Netflix has a tendency to,
Just drop things.
well, to hinge on the model of 3 seasons. So if it's not making the numbers by season 3, or they don't see a reason to carry on, then they're done with it. A
Well,
lot
I'd
of
hope
times
they'd
they
wrap
leave
it
it,
up in some kind of conclusion instead of how they did it, but
but they could do that in a movie potentially as well, right? Like a maybe an hour and a half episode or something like
oh yeah,
that.
they could
Just
make a
wrap
movie
it
to
up.
finish that off.
Well, that would be neat.
That would be
So
neat. I would like it.
while we're on the conversation of movies, I made a taboo choice to venture out to the movie theaters last night, and I will say that it was insanely not busy. I was the only person in the film. I went and saw the New Mutants, and I personally am a huge fan of theater. I say theater, the movie theater specifically. I have a tendency on in regular life to see at least one, if not two movies every single week. I just enjoy film. So I decided to risk it for the biscuit and go back out and see what I could come up with. And The New Mutants was the movie I chose to watch. Um, do you know anything about New Mutants?
Well, wasn't there was like a series or a show or something, wasn't there? Where there was some like New Mutants locked up in like kids locked up in some kind of facility. They're
It's
like,
exactly what this is. Yeah, I don't know if there's a show or not. I know it's a graphic novel.
no, I remember a live action. I don't know where from, but I remember a live action.
What you're talking about, I've not heard of, but I'd be interested in hearing more about it. But this one specifically is exactly what you're saying. It's
Was it from the Wolverine?
the main character. Yeah, I think you are right. Wolverine Origins or X-Men Origins Wolverine. It's got Wolverine. He goes into a facility that has a bunch of mutants locked up, and he helps break them out. That movie is just whatever. Um, this movie's not much better, but I will say it's better than that. Basically, it is based on I'm blanking on the main name. I'm sitting there through the movie going, I need to remember the name. I need to remember her name so I can talk about this. But there is a Native American mutant that it starts out with that her tribe is being wiped out, and then she gets sucked into this organization that is basically trying to uh, teach her to control her powers so she can be released back into the wild. And I say the wild as in like back into society. And there's other mutants that you meet there. Actually, I'm going to Wikipedia this real quick. Did you find what you were looking for?
Nah, I stopped looking. I just started looking at New Mutants and started looking at looking up. What is
So,
she,
because
a
I just
Wendigo? Is she a Wendigo or a Skinwalker?
I,
What was her power?
it's exactly what you're talking about, I believe. So, real quick, you have there we go. Danielle Danny Moonstar. Her power is to create illusions based on the fears and desires of other people. So basically the mutants that are involved in this are Ilyana Rasputin, which is the sister of Colossus. Thank you, the guy that could cover himself in metal in the original series. But it is loosely tied to the original X-Men movies. It was the last movie that was produced and made by Fox before the Disney merger for Fox, and all of the mutants the X-Men getting put back into the Disney catalog for the Marvel series. But they introduced a whole slew of new mutants that were not in the previous movies, like, for instance, Rain Sinclair, which is actually Wolfbane, or Wolfsbane, which is played by Macy Williams. There is Ilyana Rasputin, like I previously talked about, which is played by Anya Taylor-Joy, which you might know from The Witch if you've seen that movie. You should watch it. I think you would enjoy it. You have Sam Guthrie, which is Cannonball in the X-Men series. Again, Danny Moonstar, which is a person that can control thoughts and prey on your darkest fears. And then the last one is Bobby DaCosta, which is what is his name? Sunspot in the Marvel X-Men. But anyway, those are the characters that are introduced in the movie, and basically it's really based on the idea that this organization is trying to get them to hone their power to potentially, again, re-release them back into society. But you come to find out, and full spoilers for this movie. I'm going to go through the whole thing real quick. I know you don't care, but one of our 8 viewers might. So spoilers starting now. This movie is basically Danny coming into an organization that already existed, and then her powers manipulating the thoughts and emotions of the people that are already in there. So they may already have an understanding of their powers, but then they're haunted by the thoughts and dreams and imagination of this Danny character, which preys on their biggest fears. For instance, Sunspot, who did not know that he was a mutant, had an opportunity that he would be able to hook up with his girlfriend. Well, his powers were introduced, and he burned his girlfriend alive while being intimate with her, for lack of a better phrase,
It
and
happens.
kills her. And that's something that he lives with. So now that he is dealing with this Danny character, nope, not Danny. Yeah, that's right, Danny. And it's being reintroduced, so he is reminded and haunted by that. So this is the kind of movie that it's conceptually a horror movie in the X-Men universe, but they don't fully put their foot in that camp. Whereas if they did, I think that this movie would have been completely successful and fun. I think the acting outside of the main Danny character, which is played by apparently Blue Hunt, someone I've never heard of before, she does a terrible job in this movie. She's very flat, she's very plain, she's very boring. Everyone else in this movie hits all the right notes. Anya Taylor-Joy specifically, who you might know from the movie Split. You've seen Split.
I think so. We'll look it up.
Oh God, you're the worst. Um,
Hey,
she does a really.
is that facility haunted? I
It's
remember
not.
something about the some facility with the kids, and maybe it was Wolverine. I'll have to look it up.
It's not haunted, but there's these characters called the Smiley Men, because that's the Anya Taylor Joy's character's biggest fear, and so they're creeping around the facility. Actually, voiced by Marilyn Manson, weirdly enough. Um,
Who
but
was
it just
Split? Was there's Glass Unbreakable? Split was that was one of those?
yeah,
Yeah, I love that movie.
yeah, Split. She's the main girl in that movie, the one that survives. Spoilers for Split.
Yeah, Munch Munch, the
But
Destitute.
she's really good in this movie. She plays, like, again, she's a Russian character. She does a good accent. She has a good. I could go into a lot more details about each of the individual characters, but overall, like I said, Maisie Williams does a good job. Anya Taylor Joy does a good job. The only one is the main character that I think completely misses. But it just feels like they took a movie that was meant to be a little bit of a horror, chopped it up into pieces to make it more publicly friendly, and then just shipped it out because it was what they needed to do. I I was ultimately bored with it. I think if I were to rate it on our 5 scale rating, I would put it in the blank range. It's not bad enough to be garbage. It's not good enough to be good. It is just completely forgettable. A couple of neat, I guess, animations. They do a good job of developing some of the characters' mutant abilities, but overall, like I said, it's completely missable. I don't think you would miss anything if you never saw this, especially if you're not a fan of the X-Men and Marvel series like I am. So,
Well, Gambit. That was my number one mutant.
But but that movie was scrapped a long time ago, so
I know.
it's not going to be anything. All right, go on to your number two, Yanni McYonner, John.
Sorry. Well, I haven't seen any films. But number two, and I don't think I talked. I think it was this week. Was it this week? It wasn't this week. It was last week. I don't know if I talked about it. Did I talk about the La Prima Fiat?
Yes, you did. But
I
you
did.
you started talking about Lord of War again.
Huh? No,
You said
Shadow of
right,
War.
Shadow of War. That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
I mean,
Lord of
like
War
it
is a
has
Nicolas
been
Cage
entertaining,
movie.
but it's frustrating, is what that has
Sure.
been. Well, I completed my quest in my little area, right? Time to feel my legs out. I got one guy in my barracks. Maybe that was my problem. So I go to this arid place because it's on the map. I was like, I'll go there. And the little white witch dude is like, hey, you don't need to take this place, but every territory helps. I'm like, all right, I'm here. And I'm freaking getting my ass kicked, and it's pissing me off. It is pissing me off. I lost my bodyguard. I got a couple more orcs to join my ranks, and I'm just like, why is this so hard? The levels of the orcs just increased a jack ton. I'm just like, why? What is going
You said
on?
increased.
Yeah, well,
Levels
that's
of the orcs increased.
I went, and then I went down.
Oh, okay.
Um,
All I saw was the down motion. I think your other one was out of my camera view.
it's probably true. But it's just I don't know. I'm still hooked. I'm thinking I gotta respec my guy now. I've got to go to instead of like fire because I don't know if the game is doing it. Like it's I'm in this arid area, and so maybe the orcs they seem to be one more resistant to arrows. They adapt a lot faster, and a lot more of them are fire prone. So all my fire attacks, setting them on fire, do zilch. So I think I'm gonna have to switch up, and maybe they've done it like that. Maybe I'm just, they've got it to where you have to constantly be changing your style, which I don't like. I like to get
Yeah, I
into
don't
my
either.
rhythm and keep it going. We'll find out. We'll find out. I've just gotta muscle through it.
How close to finishing that game do you think that
I
you
am 33% through.
holy crap. Like, whenever you look at the 33%, are you talking, is that story or is that total completion of like all side quests,
Oh no,
upgrades,
that's
etc.?
story. I think I can
Wow.
forego the land that I'm in and go just story mainline, and then be able to get that because I've left a couple lands ago. Not really
I
sure what I'm
think
supposed to be doing.
I'm going to need a full review of this game from you by the end of it. And I've been saying that for a couple weeks now. I
It's
think you
gonna be
just
a
need
while,
to
James.
really invest. You need to dive in and finish it. I'm going to touch on one more game. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. It's a game I played when I was on vacation. I took my Switch with me and I was dabbling in it. We played actually a little bit of it when we went to Germany last year. I think we played 30 minutes of it maybe. It's essentially a beat 'em up, but it includes a huge roster of Marvel characters. The roster, I think, in my opinion, is the best part of the game. It has a wide and eclectic roster of Marvel Marvel characters and some villains as well. I think for me, when it comes to Marvel or any superheroes, the biggest part for me that I find entertaining is seeing kind of uh, the design, the creation of the villains and the superheroes, and I have a really good time kind of seeing what their spin on those characters are. In this instance, this is a game that was released exclusively for the Nintendo Switch, I want to say about 2 years ago. And overall, if you're looking for a little basic 3D action beat 'em up, level up fighting game, I think you're probably going to find some entertaining parts of this. But overall, it is a little bit of a slog in the sense that you're just going from set piece to set piece with some of your favorite Marvel characters. Um, Kind of smashing the A button and the B button to perform your light or your heavy attacks. And then once you build up a certain meter, you can do an ultra or a special. And it's a squadron of 4 people. You can utilize all of them, transition from character to character. Uh, the story is just silly. It introduces the Infinity Stones. They get spread out over this facility of villains, and so some of the boss battles are kind of neat because they have a special Infinity Stone that gives them a little bit of a better ability. Overall, like I said, it's probably just a good game on our scale. I wouldn't say it's completely skippable. If you played it, you wouldn't be sad about it, but it's not something that you're going to play and just get wholly addicted to. Probably just good on my scale. So, John, with that being said, I think it's time that we transition into our list of the best games of all time.
Best games of all time.
There's the theme
Mm.
song right there. So, did you come up with one for this week?
Yeah, this one it makes me feel a
Old.
little well, yeah, old and nerdy actually. Really, really, really nerdy and it not only has to deal with the game itself, but the system that it launched on.
Uh-oh, not the
Kind of
PC?
no, this one was not the PC.
Oh my God, this is a first. Nope, it's a second. I lied.
It's a
Okay,
second. You did lie. You are a sack of human feces. Anyhow,
that's true.
um, so this one is going to be. I'm gonna say Pokemon Red.
Oh wow.
You could have probably put blue in there. We're gonna forgo yellow because it didn't have the really cool broken aspect of it that made it sort of enjoyable. So one RPG, loved it. I didn't get to. I was not wealthy enough or well off enough to have a Game Boy Color when this came out, which didn't
You're
really
wealthy
matter
enough
because
to have two driveways now. So,
yeah, now should have saw me back then. So I had a Game Boy Pocket, and I had a cable that you could battle or trade with people. And I remember
yep.
meeting up with people on the steps of the middle school, like cloning Pokemon that I had read somewhere on the internet, where if you disconnect the cable at some point, the copy gets only to one side, and so you can actually clone Pokemon, sort of like a little hack. I remember finding missing number and the over level whatever Snorlaxes and Golbats and like I forget what line item it is, what item you had, but you can get 99 of them. You could clone items by finding the missing numbers and fighting them. I remember going to tournaments at Books a Million,
Really?
not just for cards but also for the Game Boy version of it. And then one really cool aspect which I would hope that somebody would bring this up again, is that there was a cartridge for your Super Nintendo that you could put your Game Boy games in. So I
Yep.
could take
Game.
my
What was that called? It was just the Super Game Boy. Yeah, you actually took the cartridge, you put it in, and then you plugged your Game Boy cartridge into the Super Nintendo, and you could play them on
yep
the screen.
saves and
I
everything
had
just
that.
transfer,
I
and
had
all
that.
it was this little thing. And I was hoping that the Switch would be something similar to that. It tries, but I mean, like I'm going to color at that point, and it tried to do that with I'm cheap. I couldn't buy the color Game Boy, but I had a Pocket. But then when I put it on my Super Nintendo, boom, I'm automatically upgraded to a bigger screen, and I've got don't have to worry about batteries, and I've got color going on. But the game itself was awesome. I started off with Squirtle. I struggled really bad when I got to the Ghost Gym or whatever because the only uh, thing that would affect the ghost types that I had was Bubble Beam on my main Squirtle. It was rough. It was a rough go, but I just like I don't know, man. I really enjoyed that game, talking smack on other people and what Pokemon they picked to begin with. Uh,
What were the starter Pokemon? You had Pikachu, Squirtle, Bulbasaur.
So you could do Charmander, Bulbasaur, or Squirtle and Pikachu.
Okay. So
But Yellow, I think you de facto started with Pikachu and he followed you or something.
So the question I have is, if you were so into that Pokemon game, why did you fall off the Nintendo map so aggressively? Because I'm sorry, all the Pokemon games are Nintendo games exclusively now.
They are. Well, they were then too.
Right.
So I failed through silver. I was into those things. GameCube wasn't really a big hit for me. I think Eric had a GameCube, my younger brother, and we played games on that and stuff like that. I wasn't a fan of the 64. Honestly, I thought the controller was trash. I didn't see a
It
lot of
really
games with
was.
it, and so I made the jump to PlayStation. And PlayStation came out, and the PSP came out, and I was like, Game Boy, I can play movies. I can hook this directly into stuff. The game quality was better. Then the PlayStation 2 came out, which we burned through that. PlayStation 3. Vita came out, and I was
Done.
disappointed or let down by that, and I was done. I was like, "What?
That's fair enough.
Wasted my money."
Nah, the
So
Vita was great, but it just didn't give enough.
it didn't have the push. I think Sony let it down.
Yeah,
To
that's
be
true.
honest with you,
That's true.
I think
But
it was all Sony. They tried to do the proprietary cards again. It worked out for the Switch. So whatever. All right, I'm done. But Pokemon Red, man, it's going down in history.
that's a interesting and
It's the only
honestly,
RPG
it's
I'm going to put in this.
honestly it's a choice that I did not expect from you. So I'll take it. My choice for this week is going to be an NES game. I decided to go early as well. It is Super Mario Bros. 3, released for the Nintendo Entertainment System on February 12th of 1990. I don't know how you feel about the Mario games, but I believe this is my first Mario entry so far.
I have
For
a question after you're done going through your spiel.
well, it's going to be a minute because the thing that gets me going about this game specifically, it was the introduction
Raccoon? Oh,
of
really?
not only just pixel perfect side-scrolling platforming, but it's also of the secrets. I think this game introduced the secret warp whistles better than any of the previous NES games did, any of the previous Mario games did. Obviously, with Mario 1, you had the secret warp pipes, but this one specifically, you had to do a couple of in-game challenges to be able to drop down and find these warp whistles that were hidden off screen completely. And then you could teleport to essentially any level in the game. With those specifically, I can beat the game in probably about 35, 40 minutes at the very most. But if you're a real pro, you play through it old school. And like you said, you have the Tanuki suit, which allows you to turn in stone. You have the jumping boot, which I don't know the definition or the actual legitimate name of, but you can hop in, do the big jumps, and then also walk on spikes. You have the actual tail, so you get the feather in the game, and then is that right? Man, it's been a minute since I played this game,
Yeah,
but
you get the feather, you get the tail. Is it a raccoon tail? Is it a fox tail?
we're
What is
gonna
it?
we're gonna go with a raccoon tail, and you're able to fly for a brief period of time, or you could get the P wing, which allows you to fly for the entirety of a level, which you always exclusively use that on the sun levels, which are able to allow you to avoid the swooping sun throughout the sand and desert levels. So
You missed the
uh,
frog suit though.
you're right. I did forget about the frog suit. You know why I forgot the frog suit? Because I always warp whistle past that shit because those water worlds are terrible. Unless you specifically have the frog suit. And then they're awesome and fun. But if you take
I
it,
don't know. You still get eaten by those dang fish.
that's true. This game is awesome. It just brings back so much memories. And I like the fan theory that it is a play and Mario's just acting in a play because everything's held up like it was a prop in a background on a set or something along those lines. So this game is just fantastic. I don't know what I can say that hasn't already been said about Super Mario Brothers 3, but it is absolutely one of my favorite games of all time. It was easily on my top 5 probably for the Nintendo Entertainment System. And yeah, that's that. What's your question?
Why'd you pick the NES version over the SNES version?
I don't know that there is a Super Mario Brothers 3 for the SNES. And if there is, it's just the All Stars collection version. And the reason I'd pick that is because the SNES All Stars collection version was a ROM that did not run as well. Basically, they
No.
took all of those games, put them into a port, and ran them as ROMs, and they just, again, mild differences, but do not run as well. But that Mario All Stars was actually just today announced to be coming to the Nintendo Switch on their Virtual Console, which is pretty cool. So you'll be able to go back and play the original Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 2, Super Mario Brothers 3, and Super Mario Brothers Lost Levels.
What?
You're looking it up to see if it was like cross generational.
No, Super Mario 3. I just like
You're
I
thinking
enjoyed the one on the SNES because it had graphically it was better, the colors vibrant, and you went from 8-bit to 16. Um,
I will also say that there is a great deal of fondness in my memory for the 4-directional D-pad and the A and B button. It's a simple run, jump, and no hullabaloo in between. It's always nice to pick that thing up.
Did you ever play on the NES long enough to where the angles of the controller cut into your
It's
hands? You got
exactly
bruises?
exactly what popped into my mind. My only complaint about the NES, and this is legitimately my only complaint, is that controller is a flat out rectangle. They could have curved the edges like, a phone does or something along those lines, so it doesn't just jet into your palms and make you bleed. I mean, it was a torture device for the ages, but
Yeah, if you're gonna put some hours in there, you're gonna be hurting.
hurting
You gotta
for a
really
squirt,
want to
John.
play those games. I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Well, those are some of our favorite games of all time. We're getting close. This is again episode 10, so we've given 10 of our favorite games of all time. We are aiming to get to 13, then we will spin it off into a new conversation. So, with that being said, John, this has been episode 10 of the Nobody Entertainment Podcast. I thank you very much for joining me. I will say that I have a lot more stuff that I could talk about, but due to time, we're going to hold those until next week. I'm about to finish up a game. I got a whole new swath of things I'm going to be using to entertain myself, including
And you just bust through these games like nobody's business.
it's a fun thing for me. So with that being said, I again appreciate you joining me, and I appreciate anybody that watches this. Welcome and goodbye from the Nobody Entertainment Podcast. John, do you have a little piece of advice for us for this week?
I don't remember the one I gave beforehand,
Sometimes
but
it's nice to be tickled from the.
well, yeah, well, I was gonna say like if you're not wet, jump in a puddle.
Hey, I'll take it, John. Thank you so much. Thank you again for joining us. You guys have a great weekend. See you later.
All right, tickle me timber.